ethical hacking has more content available than ever. You have videos, tutorials, courses, certifications, and everything is available to you. But a lot of people still feel stuck. And why is that?
What? This makes no sense. Ugh, I keep failing! This is impossible! I'm so lost!
Well, that's essentially because you can learn the theory, you can learn the concepts and all the terms, but if when it comes to making decisions, you feel like you're completely lost and you lose all the confidence, there is something that you're still lacking. And that's what I want to talk about today. So let's just get started with the main focus of this video, which is interactive learning and also trying to understand the best ways to use it. When people hear interactive learning, they often think about having some sort of a platform where they can practice and you have sort of a step-by-step guidance approach where you can just follow instructions and then you're interacting and solving challenges, and that's part of it, but that's not just it. So in our context of ethical hacking, for example, because you can mostly apply this to any skill that you want to learn, but to stick within our context for today's video, ethical hacking is mostly about making decisions, see what results you get, and from that feedback, you can either adjust or adapt or try to think in a creative way to come up with the solution for that challenge. And that loop is where all the interactive learning is, and that's where you actually learn the most. So if you think about it, all the error messages that you might get or all the failures that you might think are failures are not really a failure or a setback. Those things are giving you extra information that you can use in order to go back, rethink again, try a different method, but with more context on what is it that is not working, right? And that's something that passive learning just doesn't give you. It's something that you only get by active or interactive learning and learning by doing and get your hands dirty and trying different things. And the biggest takeaway, in my opinion, with interactive learning is that it doesn't just teach you why things work, it also helps you understand why things are not working. And the lessons that you get from both of those scenarios are the things that will actually build your skill set. Now, let's look at some of the interactive learning methods that you can use in order to build your ethical hacking skills. When you're just starting, guided labs are great if you're just trying to move from all of the theory that you've been listening or reading or just watching videos on into the practice and real life examples. And these are environments that have a very, very clear goal, and usually those are the ones that guide you step by step and give you instructions on what is it that we are actually trying to achieve here. So there's not a lot of room to deviate from what the main goal of the task or the challenge is. So they are great if you want to learn something that is very, very specific. And having that structure is very important in the beginning because you're trying to analyze the cause and effect of a certain vulnerability or a certain misconfiguration in a safe environment. And for most beginners, me included, when I was just starting, having clarity was very important. I wanted to solve a challenge or go into a guided lab and know exactly what is it that I was going to learn about and what would be the purpose of the task. And not only that, these guided labs are usually when you get that feeling of, okay, now I get it. And that's when things really start to click. But at some point, the training wheels have to come off. And that's where open-ended challenges come in. And here is where you don't get the step-by-step instructions and things are a little bit more open. So you have to explore. And yeah, that's where things can be a little bit frustrating because you might not necessarily know exactly where to start, for example. But just remember this, that frustration is actually productive because you start from nothing and then you start thinking about, I should probably try this or that, and then things do not work, and then you try to come up with a different method, and all of a sudden you start noticing patterns, and then things start to click in. And that process, again, trying things do not work, you see the results, you see the errors, you see that for some reason things are not actually working as they were supposed to, and from that feedback you start thinking outside the box, you start thinking in a more creative way, and that's where the real learning actually happens. And if you think about it, in ethical hacking, that's how life works. So if you have a job as a penetration tester or a red teamer, nobody is going to actually provide you with a step-by-step guide or instructions on how a certain environment is configured or how to find a certain type of vulnerability in a system. So again, you have to explore and you have to develop that loop of thinking about a method, trying something. If it doesn't work, what do we need to adapt? What do we need to adjust? And then coming up with the solution as you go. Another great way to learn is through scenario-based simulations. Instead of focusing on just one technique or tool or vulnerability, you're placed in a much broader situation where you might have limited information about the environment, about the assets that you have access to, or what to prioritize or what to do next. And that is important because in security, in ethical hacking jobs, that's what happens. You have to keep asking yourself questions like, how do I approach a new system? How do I decide what to test next? And what do I do when my time is limited? When I was working as a pen tester, these questions were part of my day-to-day life. And so those simulations and those scenarios may cause some stress because you might have a limited time, might have a limited scope, and might have the idea of what to do, but not necessarily what to do first. And so having that training will help you tremendously if you want to build a career in ethical hacking, making you more experienced dealing with those scenarios where you might have to make decisions, not having all the information that you would like to have, and having to take action and making decisions on what to prioritize. Let's talk about gamification. This is a big one, I know. In my opinion, progress, rankings, streaks, those are all really helpful when it comes to learning because they make learning more fun, less intimidating, and they also help you with consistency. They help you stay consistent because you don't want to break your streak, you want to stay on top of your game, and it's a gamified experience, so it makes sense, right? But if we're being honest, points and streaks alone, they will not build the skills for you. And let me give you an example. If you're trying to learn Japanese, let's say, and you're using an app or any game that you might think of, you might have a 1,000-day streak going on. But then if you're just familiar with some terms and you know how to pronounce some words, but you can't really hold a conversation, are you really building a new skill or are you just playing a game? That's the point here. Because in ethical hacking, now coming back to our context here, you can finish a challenge or solve a problem and not really understand what happened under the hood, or not really understand what a tool is doing or why you use a certain command, because you might be just following instructions or just focusing on getting it done just for the sake of keeping the streak going or getting in some points. But the real progress will come from reflecting on the mistakes you did and all the adjustments you had to do on your approach when things didn't work the first time. So yeah, gamification is great and it should totally support your learning process, but it doesn't really define your success. So just remember this, the real learning happens within that loop that we discussed before. You take action, you get feedback, and then you adjust based on that feedback so you can take action again and find the right method and the solution to the challenge that you're solving, and not just on points on a screen or just by keeping up a streak. Now, we've discussed a couple methods today, right? So we have the guided labs, we have the open-ended challenges, we have the simulations and scenarios, and also the gamified approach just in general. And all of these are valuable and make sense at different stages, or depending on what you are trying to do and what sort of skills you're trying to develop. And it's also relevant to say that you might be a beginner at a certain topic and a complete expert at a different one. So you might want to try guided labs for something that you're just now trying to understand how it works. For example, if you're just tipping your toes into reverse engineering, go with the guided labs. But if you're already familiar with web application security and pen testing, you might want to go with a simulated scenario or an open-ended challenge. The key here is that once you're learning and you start improving, you will want more ambiguity in whatever you're trying to do, because that uncertainty, that unexplored territory is what will actually stimulate you to learn more and faster. And also, as you progress, realism will become more important, because if you're working as a penetration tester or a red teamer, you would like to practice on environments and situations that actually emulate what you would find in the real world situation, right? So you might want to drop a little bit on the gamified CTF kind of environment and go into a more open-ended challenge and simulation as well. Now, a common mistake that I really see happening quite often, especially with beginners, is not really knowing where to start. And so they just try a bunch of different platforms and they jump in between challenges, courses, certifications, and they don't really stick to things, and they really don't go as deep as they could if they just stick with something specific. So my tip for that is just know what you want to learn and then spend some time just on that. Find the right challenge depending on the level that you're at the moment, and then just stick with it for enough time so that you can actually go through that loop that we mentioned already a couple times on this video, so that you can make decisions, get some pushback, get some feedback, and then get all of that and rethink your approach, adjust, adapt, and then come up with new methods to solve those challenges. Those loops, while you go through those loops, you will spend some time there, but those things are very, very important, and it is really, really worth it. And in terms of difficulty, it's very important that you choose something that it's not so easy that you're completely bored, but also not so difficult that you're completely lost. So trying to find a fine balance in between those two. Imagine a football player just, instead of going into practice with his team and studying their opponent and coming up with tactics and strategies to win the games, imagine if the player just sat at home watching football games all week before actually going and playing a competitive game. That wouldn't be the best approach to stay competitive and also at the top level, right? So that's exactly what we are trying to replicate on our context. So you want to do everything you can to immerse yourself in the content, in the knowledge pools, and you get value from all of these approaches. So you still get value from watching a video, watching someone solve a challenge, but it's actually where you're in the territory, in the zone, trying to think for yourself, trying to come up with the solution to a problem that you don't really know how to solve yet. And that's where you will develop that creativity that will make you a strong cybersecurity player. The best learning experiences are the ones that force you to think, adapt, and reflect. And then when you're put into those situations, you have to deal with imperfect information, lack of details, and learn from the mistakes you do. And if we're being honest, just between me and you, if your learning process doesn't make you just a little bit uncomfortable from time to time, it's probably not changing the way how you think. And in ethical hacking and in cybersecurity in general, being creative and having the ability to change how you think is exactly how you turn knowledge into skills. So yeah, that was it for today's video. I really hope you enjoyed it. And if you did, let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!